So we're in chapter two, verse 2. Did I get that right, Rabbi Yosef? Chapter 2, verse 2 of the book of Bamidbar. So it said, Ish al deglo, va'uso soves avosam yachanu, b'nei Yisrael mineged saviv la'omoe yachanu. So each man, according to their degel. Now this is, by the way, a day of flag in Israel. A lot of people are celebrating Yom Yerushalayim, 1967, the great miracle of the land of Israel, and people wave flags. But Rashi said yesterday that degel does not mean flag. Degel means a division. That's something that modern Hebrew degel is a flag. So each man, according to their division, by their signs, by their father's home, should camp amongst the children of Israel. Mineged saviv l'Omoed yachanu. They should camp around the Omoed. So basically, there were going to be 4 divisions around the center, which was the camp of the Levites and the Mishkan. Now, which the Mishkan here is called the tent of the meeting. And each of these divisions had 3 tribes. And each tribe, Rashi says, each division shall have for itself a sign, like a flag, a colored sheet of cloth hanging in its midst. So according to Rashi, there were these 4 flags for each division. There were 4 divisions of the Jewish people, and each one had a colored sheet hanging in its midst. The color, now Rabbi Steinsaltz, I think yesterday we said translates degel as flag, but Rashi translates it as a division. And the color sign of this division was unlike the color sign of that division. The color of each one is like the color of his stone that is fixed upon the Choshen. So as a result of this, each one could recognize his flag. Now, this is a little bit contradictory because this would imply that each flag had four colors on it. So, and how did they know their sign? Alternatively, each
flag would have 3.
Each flag would have 3 colors. And how did they know? Rashi says another explanation is what does it mean by the signs of their father's home? So the first explanation means that there was a color of each tribe on the breastplate that the Kohen Gadol wore, and each flag would have one of those colors so that they could recognize it. But the second approach, Rashi says, is that was the sign that was given by their father Jacob and passed on to them when they carried him from Egypt. Meaning to say, as it states, his sons did for him like that which he commanded them. Jacob, meaning to say that when they carried Jacob up from Egypt, they carried him up according to this formation. This was a military formation, but they carried him up according to that formation. Yehuda and Yisachar, Reuven and what was the formation? Yehuda, Yisachar, and Zevulun traveled from the east, carried him on the east. Reuven, Shimon, Gad from the south, and like it states in the Tanhuma. Now, there's no real explanation why these tribes are like that. What was the reason for the formations like this? But that's the difference. So, okay, so those are 2 explanations of the signs from their father. So, meaning to say, the signs of the flags, are the signs of the stones, the color of the stones. And the second is they carry them they march in the same way that they marched when they carried Jacob bones up out of Egypt. And we just say the next. Yes, Jerry has a question here.
Doesn't Rashi contradict himself in today's explanation? Yesterday he said they were formations, the word degel, and today he is translating degel as a flag.
No, he's saying no. You see, Jerry, you're so sharp. Baruch Hashem. No, he's saying each degel, each division, because the verse states, Ish al deglo be'otot. Each division had an oat. And what is the oat? So the first explanation is that the oat, the sign is a flag. So each division had a flag, and that the flag represented the 3 tribes that were marching there. Or the second explanation of each division had an oat, Rashi says doesn't mean a flag, but it means that they marched according to the sign of which the way they marched when they carried Jacob's body up out of Israel 210 years out of Egypt 210 years earlier, that the tribes marched by that same sign. So that, but Rashi's consistent, not contradicting, consistent.
Thank you.
Sure. So now the Rashi says, that they marched mineged, they marched at a distance around Ol Moed they shall camp. So what's this distance? So Rashi says that a distance of a mill, 2,000 amos. So an amma is a foot and a half. So it's basically, so they were 3,000 feet away. What? 3,000 feet. So it's around 6.5 of a mile. So it would have taken Seth's mother of blessed memory. She was a very fast jogger. It would have taken her like 4 or 5 minutes to get there. So that the word mineged. Okay, so basically that's how far they were away from the Mishkan. Their camp was that distance. As it states in Joshua, it should be distant between you and the Israelites and the ark about 2,000 amos. Why? Why does it have to be less than 2,000 amos? What's 2,000 amos? What else does that teach us? Where else do we know that? Right, exactly. So on Shabbos, you're not allowed to walk more than 2,000 amos outside your town. So therefore, everybody had to be able to walk to the Mishkan to go to pray. Where else were they going to pray on Shabbos? They didn't have synagogues then. So they would come on to the Mishkan on Shabbos to study Torah from Moshe, or else they would come there to daven and to get to his shul. So they had to walk this 0.6 of a mile on Shabbos to be able to go together and pray and study Torah with Moshe Rabbeinu. What an image! What an image! What? What?
How could that many people fit in the area of Michigan?
So first of all, it's a beautiful question. Second of all, when I first came to DC, it said I saw the surveys that said there were 270,000 Jews living in the greater Washington area. And then I looked out that how many seats are there in Orthodox synagogues? Seats? Maybe 3,000. Maybe, probably not even. Counting every single Chabad. And so how can all their, where's the space? So what? They take turns, right? Guy is so sweet. They take turns, or the Mishnah says, Omdim Tefufim, and they would stand all tight, but yet when they bowed down, there was plenty of space for everybody. And so that's what the Mishnah says. That's about the base of Mikdash. They stand all pressed together, and when they bow down, there's space. Thirdly, the problem is not everybody fitting there, but the problem really is how does everybody hear? How could everybody hear? Because they're outside, you try speaking even a block away. But they I don't know. It was a miracle. Rav
Schlesinger told us that it wasn't a miracle. It was when you stand with your 2 feet and this is my position, then you're tzafuf, you're tight. But when you mishtachaveh, when you give the other, you flatter the other, and you accept their opinion, then there's lots of space, even though it's
beautiful. Yeah. Elaine, you were asking a question?
About women.
So
Any evidence of where women sit outside?
So to answer your question, Elaine, there's 2 sources that come to mind. First is the Torah tells us about the women that they built the copper altar made out of the marot hatzovot. So the mirrors of the tzovot, which some commentators say these are the women who gathered outside the temple to pray. That these were women who were reciting prayers right outside the Mishkan. And that's one source. And in fact, there seems to be evidence for this from the book of Shmuel in chapter 2, where it talks about, maybe chapter 4, I don't remember exactly, where it talks about how Eli's sons sinned with certain women. Makes it sound like there was a spiritual class of women whose job it was to worship. Also, the Mishnah in Sukkah tells us that there was a gathering in the Beit HaMikdash where they used to gather on Sukkot, and they had to make a tikkun gadol. Now, because there was tremendous licentiousness, there were so many men and women who were there to see the festivities at the Beit HaMikdash. It led to inappropriate interactions. So they made a tikkun gadol that they built a balcony for the women to go on so that there wouldn't be the mixing of the men and the women in the Beit HaMikdash. So those are the sources that come to mind. And also, we know that Hannah went into the Mishkan, walked in front of Eli, and recited her prayers. So that's another source. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. Okay, yes, Jerry, you had another question.
A comment. I read that a century or more later, when the Jews were in the city of Alexandria, Virginia, Alexandria, Egypt, there was a very, very large synagogue there with, I suppose, with thousands of Jews in the synagogue. And how could the people at the back hear what was going on? And the answer was they raised flags for the Amen and the Baruch Hu Baruch Shemo.
Right, so that is right. Jerry's correct. That's the Gemara, I believe, in Brachos in Tefilas HaShachar in the 4th chapter, which talks about how the synagogue in Alexandria was so big that they used to know how to say Amen when they would hear the flags, when they would see the flags, and they would tell everybody, okay, now recite Amen. So there is some evidence to that as well. But so let us. I want to just finish this Rashi. Rashi says, so that they could come on Shabbos, Moshe v'Aaron ubanav v'alavim chonim v'samecho. Moshe and Aaron's sons and the Levites would encamp next to the Mishkan. So they were coming to the Mishkan to study with Moshe. So the Levites' camp was right around the Mishkan, and that's where they were be sitting and studying on Shabbos. So that's the image I just want to share because everybody here wasn't on my parsha class today. So I just want to leave us with this mashal, with this parable. A guy was there and some other people, but the guy was right here. And I saw that this mashal really made a roshem on God. So I'm going to share it again. Roshem is an impact. The mashal is a parable. So this is today is Wednesday. Thursday is Erev Rosh Chodesh, and Friday is Rosh Chodesh Sivan. We're going to daven at 5:19 a.m. Hopefully, people will be here. Can use your help to make the minyan. 5:19 a.m. And then on Shabbos is not Rosh Chodesh, and then Sunday and Monday and Tuesday are the 3 days of preparation for the Torah. And then Tuesday night is Rosh Chodesh. So Shabbos is in between all these other holy days, and it's called Yom HaMiyuchas, the special day. So why is it special? It has nothing associated with it. So the parable is like this that we saw today. Parable is that there was a king, and he was looking for the 4 best artists in the whole kingdom, and he said, he found them and he brought them to his palace, and he brought them to a room, which was the ballroom. He said he wants each of them to take a wall and make the most beautiful wall. So 3 of the artists went out and they just started collecting all the paint in the world and the most vivid, brilliant colors. And then the 4th one, meanwhile, he's not doing anything, sitting on his chair, measuring the wall. So finally, after a few days, the other three artists finished, and they said the king is going to come tomorrow and inspect. And meanwhile, the fourth guy, he went out and quickly built a mirror on that fourth wall. So that fourth wall is just a reflection of all the other walls, or of all the other beautiful walls around him. And that made the most beautiful wall of all. So the idea is that this day is a reflection of the other, this Shabbos is a reflection of the other beautiful walls around it. And that's what makes it the most beautiful of all. And so if we're able, for us, I think the message is for us, if we're able to reflect the beautiful Torah, the beautiful messages we see around us, that's how we can achieve our greatest spiritual heights. And we can reflect the beauty that's around us. So anyway, the Neshama should have an aliyah, study Torah, and mincha at this time.